everybody. We are live on a Saturday morning. Just looking to talk some movies. I've been meaning to do more live streams here on the main channel. On, either just talking movie news or just doing AMAs or whatever. I do them all the time on Patreon. So in my mind, I'm doing live streams all the time. But for the vast majority of my subscribers, it's like, what? Why doesn't he ever do live streams? Well, I probably should do more of them. There's a fun energy to live streams, the back and the forth, the chat, all of that fun stuff. So hopefully I can get into a better pattern of doing more of these this year. So let's just dive into it. Is Blade dead at this point? With Hassan Tariq doing an OG movie with Ali and Ali doing everything else besides Blade. I mean, I'm not optimistic that the Mahershala Ali Blade film will ever happen. It feels like a project that was greenlit at a point in time when they were just greenlighting too much stuff under the wrong pretenses, which is to say, normally they go, we've got a story, we've got a character we want to do, let's make something out of that. In the case of Blade, they had an actor that just won an Oscar, they were on top of the world, and Black Panther makes $1 billion, Infinity War $2 billion, like they're just kind of this peak moment, and the Oscar-winning guy comes in and says, hey, I want to do Blade, and they go, yeah, let's do that. But it started backwards. It was the tail wagging the dog. And I think you see that where they've never figured out where it fits into their story, into their brand, how to adapt it quite right. And I think that's the problem with getting ahead of yourselves and having something that you want to be like, there's something you could be excited about it, but you're excited about the wrong detail, which is the casting and not the story. And when a cinematic universe, there's so many moving parts to a cinematic universe, the story and how it fits into your grander picture is really important. And you can't let the tail wag the dog. And I think that's what they did with Blade. And at this point in time, I don't know how you salvage it because Mahershala Ali is in his 50s now. Wesley Snipes, who's like actual martial artist, famous for being action star, great shape, he stopped playing Blade when he was 43. 43. That's my age. Mahershala is like going to be like 10 years older than that by the time he starts filming it. If they get on track to do a script now, and you go, that's not great to play a living vampire. So I think that Blade is probably pretty well dead. Do you believe there's a chance we'd ever get that Scarlet Witch solo movie they told us about a few months ago, or was that just another empty tease? I don't know who you're saying told you about that, or like who they is. The rumor mill, the leaker community, I take all of that with a bag of salt. That some of it's true and some of it's not. And it like the people that have a really good track record, it's like 1 in 3. And then there's all the other people in that space that it's like 1 in 20 or 1 in 10. And it's really just a lot of times even them saying things that are like, could a Scarlet Witch movie happen? Sure. You have a popular actress and character that's very powerful that had her own TV show that was a villain in a movie. And you go, would you want to do more here? Could you do more with the character? Sure, you could. So you just throw that out there. It could turn out to be true. And you go, look, I was right. But that's just guesswork. Like, you could do this with almost anything. Like, we could just guess. Like, we're going to get a Hawkeye movie starring Kate Bishop. I mean, it's probably not going to happen, but it could. It's not like Haley Steinfeld's a movie star, so they could do that. So you just say that, and sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. So I just take this whole community of leakers and everything just very much with a gigantic bag of salt, because there's so much in there that's like just wrong, that just so far off base. All right, there's like so many comments in here before we even started. Um, hmm. what season would you say was the organic end for Cobra Kai? I mean, I've said it many times before, but um, like if like they like, the problem is that I don't think they had one organic end to it. They had two. I think ending with All Valley is an organic ending, and I think like the defeat of Terry Silver and the completion of Johnny growing up and restoring Robbie, Miguel, all, like that's both the ends of 5 and 6. So if you don't do 5 and 6 as two like 25 episodes, two different seasons, but you kind of like merge them together and don't make it about global tournaments and stuff, like you keep it back to what it was about, and like there's a lot of stuff in the finale that we just got that's really organic, natural, and satisfying. But to get there, we have to like pad things out 2 seasons. So you merge 5 and 6 together. I think you get the most organic ending that you could have had. All right, super chat coming in from Double A. Thank you so much. What up, Sean? Favorite Jackie Chan action comedy? I think for me, I would go Shanghai Noon, the one with Owen Wilson. Also has Walton Goggins in it. I found that one to be a ton of fun. But right there with it is, of course, Rush Hour 1 and 2. That these are his most accessible films, the Rush Hour, Shanghai Noon films, where it's him while he was still kind of in his peak, doing his thing, but with Hollywood slickness and the all that kind of comes with that, partnering him up with these comedic actors. Jackie Chan's English is still not the best, even now. Like he's spoken English, for 40 years, but his English is still very broken. And so you team him up with someone that's really funny. And so he can be funny with a lot of the physical comedy, his reactions to things, plus his action styling. Pair that up with a Chris Tucker, Owen Wilson, and you just get a very, very entertaining film. But I inch out Shanghai Noon because I even just the blend of a Western is just a little bit more interesting. But Rush Hour is right there with it. Rush Hour 1 and 2 are right there with it. From Daniel Skinner with the super chat, thank you so much. Thoughts on the James Bond Amazon news? So if you don't know what this is referring to, for decades and decades and decades, the Procoli family has had kind of creative control. They have been the visionaries over the James Bond franchise. Barbara, in particular, is the one very famous for shepherding the franchise. And then over the last decade or so, Amazon has purchased MGM Studios, gotten control of the Bond franchise. So No Time to Die comes out, closes out that journey, and the question is, what's next for Bond? And, it's been, 4 years now, 3-4 years now, and no progress. And that movie, even when it came out 3-4 years ago, had already been delayed. So they stopped writing and filming that movie 5-6 years ago. That's 5-6 years of thinking, what's next? And no actual progress while Amazon has control of it. And there have been any number of little rumors, speculation that there's some disagreement between Barbara and Amazon as to where to go next, what to do with the franchise. And generally speaking, it's essentially the person that has dedicated their life to protecting the Bond film franchise and guiding it versus corporation that wants to make money. This past week, it was revealed Broccoli family is going off to do other creative endeavors. They're still attached in some capacity. They're co-owners, but they've relinquished creative control over to Amazon to run the Bond franchise. And then that same day, Jeff Bezos puts out a tweet going, "Who do you want to be the next Bond?" And that right there is the epitome of why a bunch of us heard this news. The shepherds of the franchise trying to protect it left. And then Jeff Bezos puts out a tweet, "Hey, who do you want to be Bond?" And you go, oh no. You just imagine Jeff Bezos, owner of Amazon, reading the comments, seeing that Henry Cavill got the most likes, second most for Tom Hardy, and just takes his notes and he goes to the producers and he goes, "All right, here's our list. Here's our must-hire list for the Bond franchise." And essentially, this is pretty terrifying news. Whether you loved what they did with No Time to Die or you didn't, whatever you feel about it, like if you like Brosnan's version more and Goldeneye or Daniel Craig's version, both of those were being shepherded by this same family and trying to have something new in each generation, in each iteration. And then you're a corporation is gonna have control of it. And they got control of Lord of the Rings, and there are people that like Rings of Power, but most people are like, ooh, I'm not so crazy about this. And you can just kind of go through the list of like Jack Reacher. Watched it last night. They've done a great job with Jack Reacher, but for every hit, there's a miss. There's something you go, do I trust an individual producer that loves a franchise or a corporation that wants to make money and exploit it? Like, are we going to start getting Bond franchises? Are we going to get the Bond spin-off TV show, like Bond cinematic universe? Like, what are they going to do with it? And all of that, you go, oh, no, please, no, don't do that to Bond. So I see most of it as just a big, gigantic negative. Like, I don't see a lot of positive in the idea that the creative shepherds went, all right, we're going to go do something else. We don't want to deal with you lunatics anymore. And the lunatics get to run the asylum. Or the business people, however you want to phrase it. Will you see the monkey? Yeah, I hope to. It's, if you don't know, this is from the director of Long Legs, Osgood Perkins, who I was a big fan of Long Legs. Got to interview him too. So I'm just very curious about this one. It's just coming out during a busy season where I haven't been able to get out. I haven't had windows to watch things, review things. I wanted to see Love Hurts. Still haven't been able to see that. I have seen Hard Eyes, but I haven't covered it yet. Just been too busy. Too much stuff's going on. My wife was out of town. I was out of town. Just a lot happening, and so it just nothing kind of came of it. But I want to. Michael with the super chat, thank you. Which Michael Bay movie do you think delivers the best Bayhem? So Michael Bay, director, not necessarily known for his great characters, his in-depth storytelling, his in-depth thematic analysis of the human experience. He's known for Bayhem. Michael Bay, action, destruction, carnage. Now, the question is not what's the best Michael Bay movie, where I might go The Rock. I'm an Armageddon fan. A lot of people love the first Transformers. The question is best Bayhem, the movie that delivers the biggest Michael Bay spectacle that's satisfying. I'm going to go Dark of the Moon, whichever the third Transformers one. I always confuse it with the Pink Floyd album, so sometimes I call it Dark Side of the Moon or whatever the Pink Floyd album is called. Confusing title, in light of the very famous Pink Floyd album. But that, to me, the Battle of Chicago, it's a movie that's not just total nonsense like his two after that, but it's like the peak, just massive spectacle. And it's the visuals are so much better than so many of the CGI fests we get now, where they're just intertwining live action footage with CGI, and you just feel the craft. There's so much size, and like buildings are toppling over. It could be very cartoonish. And they're the types of sequences that, like, when they did them in Black Widow, it's very cartoonish. When they do them in this movie, it feels like gigantic robots are attacking a city with skyscrapers and gigantic things are happening and people are luckily surviving. So I would go with best Bayhem to the third Transformers movie. Do you think Beyond the Spider-Verse will release on June 5th, 2026 at the same time as Spider-Man 4, now delayed to a week, and the Super Mario movie 2 Mutant Mayhem 2 similar to 2023? No, I don't think that across the Beyond the Spider-Verse is coming out for a while. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know how they screwed this up so bad with the planning and everything, but I don't think it'll be out for a long time. Dominic says he's been watching for 5 years, wants a shout out. You've gotten a shout out. Shouting at you, Dominic. All right, here's a fun one from the Disney Nerd Super Chat. Thank you so much. thoughts on The Rock being in Scorsese's next film. So, just a few days ago, the cast of the latest Scorsese film was announced. It was regular Leonardo DiCaprio, Emily Blunt, and then the name everyone is talking about, the name everyone is tired of, The Rock. That Martin Scorsese has brought in The Rock for his next film, which The Rock is an actor that since Black Adam came out, it's like he spent all of his relational capital with the public, all of his goodwill with the public. He took all of it, poured it into Black Adam, and people watched the movie and they went, it's mediocre, it's bad. We went, it's mediocre, it's good. But generally speaking, it's kind of the definition of mid, right there in the middle, slick professional stuff, but not actually the game changer that he promised. And everyone kind of went, oh, like you oversold this movie as the game changer, the hierarchy of power in the DCEU is changing. And then the next thing that happened is the whole thing was imploding and dying. So it's like all of his goodwill was lost, and then the reports on him being a weirdo and peeing in bottles on sets and stuff like this. So he's kind of at this spot where he's everywhere, he's ubiquitous, but he's not popular like he used to be. He's not someone that people love the way that they used to love him. And then Martin Scorsese, prestige director of prestige directors, guy that has been doing prestige since the early mid 70s. Like, it's movies from the 60s, but prestige since the 70s. 50 years straight of Best Picture nominees. Had one a year ago. And he wants to work with The Rock. This, like the thought that many of us immediately had was, is this going to be his John Travolta moment? If you don't know, John Travolta, for a brief moment, was like the biggest movie star on the planet because of Grease and Saturday Night Fever. I was going to say Staying Alive. That's the sequel and the song from the movie. Saturday Night Fever. He's the biggest star in the world, and then he struggled throughout the 80s and kind of felt like he, washed up. And then Tarantino puts him in Pulp Fiction, and suddenly he has this massive career resurgence that lasts a decade. And is this Scorsese about to do that for The Rock? That all of a sudden he's going to smash all of our expectations, our understanding of what The Rock can and can't do, and he's going to give us, some new performance that'll blow our minds. I don't know, but I'm very curious about it. And it's the sort of thing that if Scorsese trusts him, well, shouldn't we trust Scorsese? It's one of those situations. What's your favorite sports movie? This is an easy, obvious one. Got to go. This actually is a picture from a different movie, but of course, Rocky. Classic, simple answer. Rocky's my favorite movie character. Got a poster there. Of course, got the picture right next to me at my desk. Got to go Rocky. What separates Stranger Things from other blockbuster TV shows, MCU, Star Wars, other shows that take forever to come out? What separates Stranger Things? I mean, I guess you'd have to define what you mean by the question for me to answer it properly. I think one of the big difference between the two that you just mentioned is that Stranger Things originated as a TV show from the same creative team. And MCU and Star Wars did not. So Stranger Things, there were these people that loved 1980s Amblin, Stephen King's coming-of-age horror stories, and they went, let's do that now as a TV show. Let's do an homage to that, but that it's very much pulling from that, but with the depth of storytelling of a television series. Which, you stop and think about it, if you're heavily inspired by Stephen King is writing these 1,000-page books that, like, when you put them in a movie, it's like, let's heavily condense it and shrink it down. So even going back to the Stephen King roots, it makes sense. But it's designed to be this, and then it became a phenom, and so they just kind of went bigger and bigger and bigger. And, like, it was a continuation of that creative team's vision and ideas getting bigger and more extravagant as the show was a bigger hit and they had access to more money. versus the MCU, Star Wars, and some of these other ones, it's a corporation bought, in the case Disney, bought hit franchises as assets to be used to generate more money. And then Disney launched a streaming service. So one of the ways they're going to use their asset to make more money is to make TV shows. But it wasn't organic. It wasn't based on any of the normal ways of doing any of this stuff. And even like with Stranger Things, some of what happened was you cranked the first 3 seasons out really quick because the kids were just their kids and we're going to do this thing. Suddenly, Millie Bobby Brown and Finn Wolfhard and David Harbour are like legitimate movie stars. And they still are loyal to Stranger Things. But do you want to alienate your stars that are legitimate movie stars now? Or do you want to, like, let's work with them? And so we have multiple movie stars on our TV show. We just have to wait a few years. So the vision gets bigger and everything gets bigger, but it's all kind of organic and it's growing from people loving the show as opposed to let's take blockbuster movies and try and convert them into streaming shows. And I don't think, I think pretty clearly Disney Plus hasn't figured out how to consistently do that. They've had hits, they've had a lot of misses, and then they've had things like Andor that are great, but like the budget is out of control. It's I don't know exactly where you're kind of what separates them. The separation in the examples you specifically gave there, one of these started as a TV show and organically grew, but the same people are still involved, and the other is a corporation trying to take their movie franchises and convert them into TV blockbusters. This is a quick one, but because I can't answer too much on how do you personally recover from burnout in this type of career? I mean, I can't really say because I haven't like really had like significant burnout or anything like that. I haven't had a window where it was really less like right now I'm feeling kind of exhausted with this because the year was pretty discouraging with the way January played out with the fires and I had to reorganize some trips. And so like a bunch of like I had a whole series I was going to launch that was going to be a weekly series of me talking, sitting down in person with other YouTubers, creators, things like that, called Sean Chandler Talks To. And I'd lined up 8 interviews. And then all of it imploded. And I've done the equivalent of just one of them, the Scott Derrickson, which was really not even that. But all of it fell through because of the stuff that happened in LA, in addition to then just it's kind of pretty like horrifying stuff that happened in LA. So I just kind of had some pretty big setbacks. So like right now I'm feeling like the drain of a bunch of trips and travel minus the rewards of some of it, but like nothing that's any meaningful. It's just kind of like a little window of like things didn't go as I planned. But like I feel so lucky in what I do that I don't feel burnout, and I'm my own boss. If I need to, like if I'm feeling like drained, I just won't put out a video. Like the reason I'm doing this live stream is because I was feeling a little bit drained, and so I just was like, I don't want to shoot videos for a couple of days, but I need to put something out. So I'm going to do this, and then we'll pick things back up on Monday. But I haven't had significant burnout that I could answer the question. What's your favorite Simpsons episode, Sean? It's Sean Sean. It's actually on the name of the channel. That's the correct scientific spelling is Sean. Actually, my kids have gotten really into The Simpsons. We've been started watching it as a family recently. The monorail episode written by Conan O'Brien. Are you going to continue to include your daughter's thoughts throughout the year? I love the additions to your content. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've been including them for years. Like that's not a new phenom. That I do that as much as they want to and they're interested. Chloe's the one that's the most into it and probably the best at it, so she appears the most. But it's kind of as much as they're interested. Some of your questions like what's your favorite Lord of the Rings movie? I've got a video on that, stuff like that. So just always think if I've made a video on it, I'm probably not going to stop to spend a bunch of time on the question. Are your wife and kids introverts or extra? Well, extra is not synonymous with extrovert. Extra means like has negative connotations to it that don't inherently come with extroverted. My wife is probably she I think she used to be more outgoing than me, and now she's more introverted than me. I'm very introverted. Chloe likes to go out and do things, so she's probably maybe the most. She's not like the two girls are pretty social. I don't think they're necessarily just like big loud personalities, but they're pretty social. But little bit early to know if I'm not really sure if Chloe's an extrovert or not, if she just it likes to do things. I think she might just like to do things, and that means going out and doing stuff. A lot of people are saying 80% drop for Captain America. I don't know if they're saying the Friday is an 80%. A Friday 80% drop versus a weekend 80% drop are two wildly different things. Two different things, not wildly different. So I haven't seen this report yet. So I haven't like don't know if it's talking opening day or weekend. Here's the reason there's a big difference. Opening day always has a disproportionately large drop because opening day includes Thursday night previews. And in particular with front-loaded projects like Marvel that have a ton of people that go to the Thursday night previews, you end up having $10 million stacked into your Friday. $20 million stacked into your Friday. So all of a sudden, you, of course, are going to have a gigantic drop Friday to Friday. But that trickles out throughout the whole weekend too. That's why you always have these big drops. But 80% Friday drop means you're probably going to have a pretty big drop, like a over 65% drop. But over 80% 3-day weekend drop is one of the worst in comic book movie history. So I haven't seen. Maybe I guess I should pull it up. I don't like if some of these ones. I like to answer a lot of questions. So I don't like to getting too bogged down. But Captain America, Brave New World, second weekend drop. Yeah, so like it's these are reports from yesterday, and yesterday they were. I'm seeing one says 67% drop, a lot of saying 80% drop. I haven't swing. Yeah, the number I'm seeing is 68%. So I think that the 80% I think is Friday, and the weekend is 68%. 68% for the weekend. Anything over 65% is a really bad number. It's a bad number. But 80% is worst of all time. 68% bad number. Thoughts on the term woke being overused? Yeah. There's a whole industry of woke channels that use that to describe everything. I think it's been a pretty meaningless term for over 5 years now, essentially because it ends a conversation. As soon as you throw the word out there, there's a group of people that immediately high five you, and there's a group of people that immediately reject what's about to be said because it's a word that just it ends the conversation. It's an allegiance word. Which side are you on? So it's been overused by being used almost at all for a while because it's a conversation ender. Words are supposed to help communicate ideas, not shut down conversations or determine allegiance and things like that. And that's what it means in the popular culture discussion. So whatever discussion someone might want to have about is it good to have social awareness in films? Or is it bad to be agenda-driven films? However you want to have that discussion over the current usage of the way that the term is used, for good or bad, it's lost its meaning entirely. Why is Mission Impossible Dead poorly received? It wasn't. I mean, it got fantastic reviews. It didn't do great at the box office. If you check out my second channel, I have a zillion videos about that. Are you excited to finally see Superman and Supergirl sharing the screen together cinematically instead of on TV? Sure. I mean, anytime you see kind of these famous pairings finally on the big screen, there is something special about that. I've watched Smallville, Superman and Lois, the Arrowverse. So I've seen the TV versions of this and the animated versions of this. But of course, there's just something special as soon as we're talking about, like, on the big screen, big blockbuster money behind it. Yeah, of course, there's something special to that. Jason with his super chat. Any chance of best ranking the best Cobra Kai moments? I'll think about it. If there's a couple more of those little videos to, it's our last time. It's my last time covering the show, so kind of want to cover whatever I think is the last stuff. But has enough time passed that people aren't like looking to consume that content anymore? I'm not sure. And then is he just kind of stretching it out a little bit? Maybe. So I think there might be something to that. The best moment of each season, something like that, perhaps. Maybe like this next week, there's not a ton coming out, so I do have a little bit of wiggle room to potentially do more if I have some more ideas there. Is this super chat exclusive? No, no. You can just look at the ones I'm pulling up, and every other one is not a super chat. And what do you think will be the biggest at the box office this summer? I don't know. It's there's like multiple contenders in July with of course Superman, Jurassic World, Fantastic Four, and it kind of depends on which one's great. Track record: every Jurassic World movie made $1 billion, so that's a pretty safe bet. But like you get a MCU film that gets people really excited, that gets families excited. Like if you can get my kids excited for it again, that could be $1 billion film. But they got to do that. There's not a track record of Fantastic Four movies doing that. Superman, of course, is just like the archetype of superheroes. But yeah, I mean, it's always tough to tell this far out when you don't really get a gauge of the what's the vibe when people are buying tickets. Like not just trailer people on the internet. That's us on the internet. That's one thing. But what are normal people talking about? And that's like you have to get the normies to show up, not just the nerds. And normies make you get to $1 billion. Any thoughts on Alexander Payne's career, director of Holdovers, Sideways, Descendants, and Election? One of my favorites working today. I mean, I don't have any deep thoughts that you're gonna keep. Yeah, I don't have any deeper thoughts. I thought the Holdovers was fantastic. Just a great, just a true throwback dramedy. Just heartwarming, funny, memorable characters, little bits that just stand out and pop. I haven't seen Election in a long time. I've seen saw Election back. It just had a real film that stood out and had like a voice to it. I haven't seen The Descendants. I think I watched Sideways a long time ago. So I wish I had a more insightful answer, but he's not one of those directors like I've gone down the rabbit hole and had deep thoughts on or anecdotes or anything like that. Primarily, it's like, the Holdovers. Man, I wish more people saw the Holdovers. You don't have to spam questions or like please space them out. Like this question's come up like 7,000 times and I answered it like 20 minutes ago. So please, please, please don't spam too much because it makes it difficult to find questions. Does the MCU include post-credit scenes because they feel like they have to? Brave New World's felt more like a requirement than a necessary one. Yeah, I mean it feels that way a little bit. And it because they were so good for the first three phases, and they would tease something and then they deliver it. And if they put a scene from an upcoming movie, that would be disappointing. But it was a fun tease, like, oh, that's a scene from Civil War. Oh, that's a scene from Ragnarok. Like it's just a scene, but it's kind of fun. And then the last 4 or 5 years has been like Harry Styles shows up and you go, are we doing that? Hercules shows up and you're like, wait, are we doing that? And then there's like Blade voice cameo, and none of this has been paid off. And I think they realized, oh crap, we've teased 1,000 things we haven't done anything with yet. Let's stop doing that. But we have to have a post-credit scene. And so they just have this generic stuff's coming. What is it like behind the scenes at the John Campea show? Hey, thank you so much for tuning in for the super chat. Yeah, so I was on his show in studio back in December, and I mean I don't want to. There's no like tea or anything to spill, but it's the studio's in his garage. It was actually when he was doing a fundraiser And so his whole house was just filled with boxes of stuff that his audience had raised, like purchased for the charity Christmas charities. So his house was just filled with stuff for charities, and then his studio's in his garage, and so it's like full. It is a full garage, and he's kind of on one side facing, and then on the other direction, there's just a long table, and there's Ray. I'm blanking on the other guy's name. I'm just blanking on and then there's the seat for the guest. And so like you walk in like during this narrow path back behind these row of tables, and it's like a row just three computers, and so then we're facing John, and there's almost no space for anyone else. My wife was in the room like in a chair, basically next to where John was at, and there's just stuff everywhere, and it like they're just like dual monitor setups in front of everybody, and just like in like switcher boards and everything. So like the whole time, anytime there's a pause, it was like, so what's that and how do you use that? Okay, you're using OBS, but then this goes to that, and what are you recording that with? And I'm just asking questions the whole time to like figure out little pieces to how to maybe improve my setup a little bit. And like while the show's going, they're pulling up articles for the future. Ray is working on graphics, so you're like seeing him build the thumbnails. Like you'll be talking about it, and then he starts building the thumbnail for it. You can watch him doing that, and then, hey Ray, what do you think about this? And so Ray chimes in, and like, so it's just kind of like interesting to watch it, but it's like real tight because it's in his garage. And then the show ends, and we all went out to lunch, or well, as many of us were free, went out to lunch. And like actually, the way it worked out, like the other two guys weren't free, so it was just me, my wife, John, and Ann. But it's just, yeah, like show up at this house in the suburbs, and you're just filming in the garage, and it's just like this, like super slick stuff, but a really tight space. There's not like I don't have like a super specific, like there's not like a great insight to it, except it's at his house in his garage. And we're all in a row, and you're kind of talking across the room from each other too. So like a little bit, you had to like pay attention because it's like you're in a garage. It's not big, but if you're having a conversation with someone, you're normally 5 feet apart, not across a garage. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic the way it kind of played out. Had a super chat without a question. Do you play any video games? If so, what is your favorite? I mean, like I just don't have time because I watch movies. So essentially, I just play Fortnite with my kids. In like Mario Kart for family nights, things like that. Like whatever my son plays is what I play. I don't have separate video game time anymore. I just don't have time, the energy, or anything like that for it. What do you think is the better follow up to their franchise, Creed movies or Cobra Kai series? Thank you so much for the super chat. I think that this is a really tricky question because they're two such different follow-ups. Both of them, also like the original was both directed by John Avildsen. The director of Rocky also directed the original Karate Kid. I guess he did directed all the Karate Kid movies. And then they came back, and these are two of my favorite sports movies of all time, two of my favorite movies of all time, and they came back in the past decade. And in both cases, I love both franchises, but one of them is a film series that is intentionally trying to keep the tone but modernize it. It's not trying to copy what they did in the 70s. It is very much Ryan Coogler's sports movie, but it's true to Rocky. And I love that. And I love all three of those movies. Cobra Kai is a TV show that intentionally changed the genre and shifted it to a comedy that's elevated in it's not totally wacky. It's not screwball comedy, but it is elevated where there's heightened things that don't really happen, and you have to accept that the felonies are happening and people aren't being arrested. Like it's elevated, and so it shifted the genre. But it did in a way that somehow worked. It shouldn't work, but it did. And so which one do I think is better? I mean, it's really tough because you're comparing movies and TV. Like 3 movies versus 6 seasons of television. It's not a one-to-one comparison. Like on just like pure prestige level quality. I mean, I think the movies, Creed movies are just slicker big productions, but they're slicker big productions. So it's not a fair comparison. How much is each meant to me? They're kind of the same. I would say that Cobra Kai, I think, has more um, rabbit trails and things that I don't like that, but it's a TV show, so it just did more stuff. So of course it's going to do things I didn't like. Um, but I think my leaning, I don't like to compare. I don't like having to to pick because they're two different mediums with two very different amounts of content created for very different mediums. But I would go Creed simply because it's truer to the original tone, so it fits in line. It's there's no difficulty in seeing this seamlessly in line with the original, and then the consistency of quality in my mind. Where Cobra Kai, it did some stuff that just went too fantastical, and we're like getting daggers from cobras in Korea, stuff like that. That I think, like, I just don't think that fits. It's too detached, and there's things that, while it was a satisfying ending, there's things in season 6 that were just too wacky and weird. Have your children watched the Rocky movies? No, no. I mean, they've seen parts of them. I'm going to turn super chats off for the moment because it looks like I'm pretty backlogged. Um, have you watched Rocky, Sean? No. Like they've seen a lot of I put the training montages when I work out and stuff like this. They've seen a lot of Rocky, but they haven't. I don't think they've sat down and watched a full one before. I don't know if I describe myself as a big Fortnite gamer, but my family plays a lot of Fortnite. Like I played the new season last night. We got second. We almost won. It was like you actually had a couple almost wins, but I was still figuring out the weapons. There's a great new sniper in the current season that like could have changed everything. What type of music do you like? Just a ton of stuff from the '80s, '90s, and early zeros. That's more rock based generally. Maybe a lot of the pop too, but generally rock based stuff. Like pop punk, the emo stuff like that. Jimmy Eat World, Power Pop, Weezer, Smashing Pumpkins, Tom Petty. But anything kind of in those formative years for me, I love a lot of that music. And the I'm not never been into rap or country, but like the random rap and country songs I like, generally speaking, are from that era because they're Gangster's Paradise was huge during during my high school years, things like that. Or my mom listened to country in the '90s, so there's just a lot of those songs that I remember from that era. In today's world, do you think we need a film like Boys in the Hood or Menace to Society? I get I get my new Sony Cinematic camera in a month. Um, do I think that we need films like Boys in the Hood or Menace to Society? Um, well, I don't know. I don't know enough about I don't know what when you say that I don't know what you specifically mean of is that like gang culture movies? I don't know what I think movies should reflect society and they should tell the stories of our time and they should um, reflect all the different facets and subcultures and backgrounds. In that regard, yes, whatever that currently is. Um, I don't think that that specific flavor of I don't want to I might be misrepresenting it, but uh, gang violent culture. I don't know that that's the I don't know if the conversation and culture has changed or if that's not as prominent. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like that's um, I don't know if that's as reflective anymore. And I could just be wrong. Could be ignorant. But I think we should have films that reflect different facets of society and tell different cautionary tales um, in different forms. Once again, please don't spam questions. This question, once again, has come in a zillion times. Don't need it to come in a zillion times. Movies like this, what's your opinion on Spider-Man Homecoming? If it's about a specific MCU movie, I've probably shared my opinion on it 1,000 times in an individual, multiple individual reviews, as well as a zillion rankings. Top three favorite trilogies. I've got a video on my favorite trilogies, so that would give me a more definitive answer, but that's locked in. I'm sure I'll miss some obvious ones, but of course, the original Star Wars trilogy, Indiana Jones trilogy, Star Trek 2, 3, and 4. Not 1 through 3, that's not a trilogy. Star Trek 2 through 4 is a trilogy of films, which is really, it's a very cool trilogy because each movie is very different from the others. Thematically, they follow one another, but it's following the same journey that the crew has been on, but they're very different films. So I love those three films. This is a fun one. Well, would you like to talk a bit more about your pretentious phase? What kind of movies were you watching during that phase? I guess I probably phrased it that way. But, right now, if you look at my channel, I cover big blockbusters, franchises. I'm known for being the ranking guide. So that's franchises, that's genre films. And so then like, I don't gravitate as much towards cinephile films, prestige films. Those are movies that I cover because I should. They're movies I do because I think they, cover. I want to be holistic in what I cover, and then I'm a film critic, so of course I should be watching these elevated prestige films that are being celebrated, even if they're not to the taste that I naturally gravitate towards. But back in the early zeros, when I graduated high school, I went through my cinephile phase where I discovered there's movies besides big blockbusters. And I think that, comes in a variety of different forms. So I started going to like the art house theater here in town that was playing small little indie films. So I discovered something that when I say this movie and this director, he's currently the opposite of what I'm about to say. Several of these might, but like this guy put out a movie that played backwards. Like the opening scene was the beginning of the movie, or was the end of the movie, and it played backwards, called Memento from Christopher Nolan. I saw that at an art house theater. There wasn't wide release. It was playing at this one small little theater because Christopher Nolan was just this little indie director at the time. I saw David Lynch's Mulholland Drive. Was a big fan of Darren Aronofsky's Pi, and then Requiem for a Dream came out, and so then we were all like obsessed with this tragic tale of, multiple tragic tales of destruction from addiction. So just like that era of like films, like right there, the small indie films from then, this is what I was really into. 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. The Squid and the Whale. Was that Bumbacher's first one? Noah's first one? Squid and the Whale. Like I saw that in the theater, the art house theater when it first came out. And like some of the stuff I just don't gravitate towards as much. That's what I was just going to go see then because I was young and excited about new things, and now I'm old and I like movies to be an escape from the drama of real life. So I don't know that I'd have like some of it was discovering Tarantino, and then Tarantino had I saw a book somewhere it was like 100 movies Tarantino thinks everybody should watch. So I just started watching through those movies, and Blowout from De Palma was the big one that I remember. So, and you started watching old Scorsese films and 2001: A Space Odyssey and Full Metal Jacket and just all the stuff that, if you're 20 and you're discovering movies, you go, who's Tarantino with Scorsese? And Stanley Kubrick? I just went down that whole rabbit trail. Which animation studio do you see having the best future? Pixar, Disney Animation, Illumination, DreamWorks, or a different one? Well, it depends on what you mean by best. If you mean consistency at the box office, Illumination just prints money. I think of those studios, Illumination is easily the worst. I think they've always been about low-hanging fruit, and they will always be about low-hanging fruit. Disney and Pixar, I think, are in a bit of a lull, and I don't know when they'll get out of it. But I mean, they're going to be around forever. They'll if you look at Disney's history, they've always done this. You can just look at the different eras that you follow up the Silver Age with the Bronze Age, and it's 20 years of like, what's going on here? What happened when Walt died? And then you get the Renaissance, and then you get the Zeros, and you're like, what is this? And then you get Tangled and Frozen and Wreck-It Ralph and Moana. they've always kind of had ups and downs. And Pixar's having a bit of a lull right now, and they'll come back. I think DreamWorks has always been a little bit hit or miss, but I think they're like they're in a much better place right now. They put out some fantastic films the last several years. The one that I think is hottest right now is Sony, like the Lord and Miller crew, and just a lot of what Sony's doing. I think that's the most cutting edge, interesting stuff happening. Please don't spam questions. So he says that like I missed the pandemic. Well, so Sean Chandler podcast during the pandemic. So that the thing that killed it was the pandemic. That what I wanted to do with that show, I couldn't do it because everything was just let's talk about what movies got delayed this week, and that's what killed that show. So I was going to bring a version of that back. Sean Chandler Talks Too. Not exactly the same thing, but same idea of guests. And I was going to, I had 6 interviews lined up. This is Straw Hat Goofy and Cody, Austin Burke, Griffin, Perry Nemiroff. And I was going to record all of them while I was in LA, and then all of it fell through. And I had other things lined up, and it all fell through. So I was going to do them in person, so it wasn't just over technology. And so now I just have to reimagine how I want to do it. But just like whenever you work really hard on something and it falls through, there's a discouragement that it just takes time to kind of recover from. What do you think is the biggest problem with John Bernthal's Punisher? I think he was great, but over time it seems his version is divisive. Well, it's not him. It's that the show turned into, or not even turned into it. It was always kind of more like a spy espionage show with a violent vigilante as the lead. But it's like about the government conspiracies and like what happened with his family and this happened to this and these government organizations. And so it's all about that other stuff, not Frank Castle on a mission to kill criminals. That's where I think I'm the perfect, I wanted a Punisher TV show going back 15 years ago. And there was rumors of one. I think they shot a pilot for one almost 15 years ago. I was like, what was that show? And then he showed up in Daredevil, and I loved it. It was awesome. And then he got his own show, and it was good. But just look at the way Punisher's treated in Daredevil, where he's the side character, and he's out killing people, and he's put in prison, and he's just killing people in fights. And then on his show, it's about a big conspiracy that he's in the middle of. It's not about him hunting down the Nucci's and killing the whole family. And I think it's because they went, how do you sustain 10 episodes of a guy just slaughtering people without it being like, oh, this is... And so you come up with this, you need another genre there, and I think they picked one that wasn't entirely satisfying. It wasn't for me. Do you think video games can manage to become as cinematic as films? I see. My brain was adding cinematic universe. Can they become like cinematic universe? Like, what are you talking about? Do you think video games can manage to become as cinematic as films? And how big is the wall between the two? Do games like Red Dead make the gap smaller? I haven't played Red Dead, so I can't comment on that. But I mean, the last several years, the gap has gotten much smaller. And we're basically seeing that happen. But oddly enough, it's not happening in cinemas. It's happening on television. If you look at Last of Us and you look at Fallout, these are gigantic productions that are cinematic in quality. I saw the first 2 episodes of Fallout in IMAX. They did a press screen on IMAX, like true IMAX here in Austin. So I saw on the big screen. It's tremendous. So I think we're basically there. The some of it is the games themselves had to get to a point in time where the material lended itself easier to translating into cinematic stories. Back in 1985, converting Super Mario Brothers into a story, what do you do with a guy jumps up and hits question marks with his head? Like, what do you do with that? Jumps on mushrooms' heads and stuff, and slides down to a pole to save a princess. Like, how do you turn that into a movie? What's the character arc? Like, there wasn't a lot to work with. Now there's so much more to work with modern video games. The technology's there, and they've just started to crack the codes a little bit better. And anytime you figure out how to do something, someone does it once, everyone else can build off of that. And that helps a lot. Do you think Mission Impossible is better than the 007 movies? I'm a Mission Impossible person. I'm not a big James Bond person. Like there's a number of James Bond movies that I really enjoy or love, but there's like I don't like the Roger Moore era at all. So you have like 15 years worth of James Bond movies where none of them are movies that I would just choose to put on. Even the Sean Connery movies are just they're like I didn't grow up with them enough to have that much connection to them, so they just feel like I'm watching these kind of ancient things. But like the Timothy Dalton, GoldenEye, and the Craig movies, I tend to enjoy, and I can just put on. But I'm much more of a Mission Impossible person. And so those are the spy movies that started coming out when I was like in middle school, and then they've been with me until now I'm in my 40s. Did you hear they brought back the stunt coordinator for season 1 and 2 of Daredevil? And also, how can Disney avoid MC shows feeling like homework? So, yes, I did hear they brought back the stunt coordinator, Rob Liefeld, creator of Deadpool, who actually liked one of my tweets this past week, which was a lot of fun. He put out a tweet about how they brought in the stunt coordinator to reshoot everything, and then Vincent D'Onofrio quote tweeted, or he commented on, he didn't quote tweet, he commented on saying, yeah, this is mostly true, but kind of wrong, that, yes, eventually Disney started listening to the talent that they needed to change some things, and they brought in this guy to rewrite everything. That guy directed it, but they also brought in this guy to punch up the action, and he shot all this new action. How can Disney avoid MCU shows feeling like homework? I think this is the big, gigantic question of this is the problem that Disney's facing, not just where Marvel's facing, not just with the TV shows, but also with the movies, that it's too big, that they have a movie come out last week. I come out of it like, oh, it was cool. It felt like a cinematic universe again. And all these other people were like, oh my goodness, there's so much homework. Wait, I have to rewatch that Incredible Hulk movie from 17 years ago that I wasn't crazy about? My kids would need to watch a Incredible Hulk movie that came out 5 years before they were born to understand this movie? Oh, I don't want to have to do all this homework. You reach a point in time where the fun of a shared universe and these continued storylines gets so big that it just starts to implode in on itself. It's the thing that made it great is the thing that also causes it to collapse. And I think the TV shows sped up that process, but I think they would have gotten there on their own without the TV shows escalating things and speeding things up, accelerating things. But I mean, how do you make that not the case? You find the way to tell stories that, like in my mind, if you didn't need to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier to understand Brave New World. Like it tells you more information about Isaiah, but you didn't need to watch that show to understand the movie. You didn't need to watch Eternals to understand a thing's popping up. Like you'd be like, where did that thing come from? But the movie also tells you a little bit. And so it's like you treat things as simple exposition. You treat the past movie as a simple plot point. A simple plot point. Contrast that. Like, thing came out of the ground. I can just say that to you. Like, there's an invasion, and a thing came out of the ground and it's stuck there. That's celestial. It's otherly. So it has minerals on it. I can say that in a couple sentences and you go, oh, okay. But if you watch Multiverse of Madness without seeing WandaVision, you have a character that you know well, that you're familiar with from multiple films before, that all of a sudden is a villain. She's more powerful than ever, and she's obsessed with her kids. And you're like, what? Where her kids? What are you talking about? It's not just thing popped up out of the ground. It's, well, in her grief, she created an imaginary world that was a fantasy where she had a happy ending that was based off the sitcom she grew up watching, and in it she had a family and she had these two boys that she became emotionally attached. Like it's very complicated. It's not, there was a Captain America before that was imprisoned, but now he's working with Sam. Like, you can say it really simply. Like it's not crazy. You go, okay, I can pretty easily understand the concept of Isaiah. I can easily understand this concept of thing popped up out of the ground, as opposed to like, why is this character radically different and obsessed with her children? I think that's the balance that you have to run. What are your thoughts on Tatiana Maslany expressing interest in returning as She-Hulk in Daredevil Born Again? I mean, I don't have much to say there. Actress wants work. Actress, the most popular episode of her TV show features Daredevil. Now she wants to be on his more popular show. I don't have an opinion on that. I mean, of course she does. Like, what else is she gonna say? Like, what's the whether she's in there or not, whether she wants to be on there or not? What like when she gonna? I'm not really interested in that. She's gonna throw their show under the bus. Like actors always they get asked these questions. Would you like to be on this show? Would you like to be cast in this role? Would you like this? And any actor that's a gracious person that wants to, they're not trying to shoot down people's interests. They're not trying to throw shade. They're going to try to graciously answer things. And so I don't read anything into the comments at all. Hey, Sean, what will win Best Picture? What should win at the Oscars this year? What movie always makes you emotional every time you watch it? See, you're tricky. You're 3 questions in one. You're trying to cheat. I have no idea what will win Best Picture. I have no idea what should win Best Picture. This is not like last year. Well, step back. What should win? Dune Part 2. Who should have win Best Director? Denny. But he didn't get nominated for Best Director. He got he got nominated for Best Picture, but he's not going to win. Very unlikely he's going to win. But I think in my mind, the scope and size of that film, the difficulty of that film, and how it seamlessly does all of it. It's a massive production that's thoughtful. Every frame is believable. There are only a handful of directors on the planet that could make that movie. And he wasn't nominated for Best Director. I think that's outrageous. So that's who should win. Who will win? I have no idea. This year is wild. If you'd asked me when the nominations came out, I probably would have said Amelia Perez because it just had the momentum. I don't understand the momentum, and I don't think most people understand the momentum, but it just had the momentum with the nominations and getting wins in other places. But since then, it didn't win. It didn't win at several of these other organizations. Honora won. I'm in Critics' Choice. I was in the room at the Critics' Choice Awards. So I walked right by Denis Villeneuve and John Chu and Nicole Kidman. Adam Brody stood right behind me with his wife, Lee Meester. Walked right by Adrian Brody. Like I was in the room at Critics' Choice. As a member of Critics' Choice that voted, they said Honora won, and everyone was not disappointed, but they were surprised. We're like, really? Huh. Well, I wasn't expecting that. And then Honora won again? So like maybe it's with Honora, but I don't know. Like it is wild here. What movie always makes you emotional every time you watch it? I don't know. Man, I don't know if I have a good one coming to mind at this exact moment. I'm trying to think, like there's certain movies that just like their sequences are just so profound. I'm trying to think what they are that I actually rewatch frequently. I don't think I have a one coming to mind that on this one. I think yes, this is a super chat. I thought I saw that, but you're asking here independently, so maybe I'm just ahead of myself. But are you planning to rank the Smallville seasons when Superman comes out? I'm working on it. I'm on season 3 of the show. I've already shot a review of season 1. I need to shoot my review of season 2. I'm intentionally not releasing them yet because I wanted to be like spaced out at a certain frequency for posting them, but I'm working on it. I don't know if it'll happen. Over 200 episodes of a TV show is tough. Will Supergirl be included in your movie ranking? I don't know. It might be. I'm not sure. So some of these questions, what's your favorite movie? I mean, I've got a video on my favorite movies of all time, so you can find out not just my favorite movie, but my 40 favorite movies. But a lot of these ones just like, Like you can look to see um, what is like what Terminator 2 is not that good. Now you're just talking crazy. You're making yourself sound like a crazy person now. Thoughts on the Walking Dead franchise? Main show, no spin-offs. Favorite story arcs, characters to me. Season 5 was season mixed bag. I mean, I just haven't seen all of it, so I can't really comment on some of this other stuff. My thoughts on Walking Dead. I was an early adopter of the show. Now I hadn't read the comics, but I was aware of the comics. So when they said they were adapting, I was like, "Oh, cool, sweet." I remember watching the trailer. I bought an Apple season pass the day Walking Dead dropped, like from the iTunes store. That's how we did it back in the day. And when a new episode would drop, and I rewatched those first 6 episodes like a zillion times. That was my introduction to John Bernthal. And then season 2, I thought I didn't dislike it while watching it, but was like, man, this is just taking way too long to get nowhere. And then during season 3, there's a plot point that happens that was just the wrong plot point at the wrong time, tied to birth of children, and when my children were born. And my wife doesn't do zombie shows, so I was watching it on my own, but she didn't watch it with me, and it was just like with becoming parents and everything, I just stopped watching it mid-season 3. Never picked it back up. Season 1 was showrun by Frank Darabont, the guy that did Shawshank Redemption, Mist, Green Mile, Legend. And after that season, they got cheap and they basically ran him off. And then someone else took over and they just changed it and they started doing this churn and burn, crank out episodes, and became a juggernaut after I stopped watching it. But I think also quality dropped. But that's my take on it. I thought season 1 was fantastic. Loved it. But then just kind of I guess I was the original starter and dropper. A lot of people left it at some point in time. I was the first batch of people to do that. Stranger Things is based on an 80s movie. No, it's inspired by 80s movies. It's not based on a thing. Based on means I'm going to base something on this character, U.S. Agent. It's based on him. Inspired by means I like that sort of thing. I want to do something like that. It is like a variety of different things. Yo, Sean, been subscribed to you since 2019. Thank you so much. Do you think Spider-Verse is being used too much? If they make the next Spider-Man movie multiverse, yes. If not, then we're fine. The fact that we have an animated universe set of films, we've only got 2 of them thus far, and it looks like we're not getting the next one for a while. So every 5 years getting an animated Spider-Verse movie, that's not overdoing it. And they're great. And then you have No Way Home. I'm not as high on it as some people, but it's great. It's a great Spider-Man experience. It's special. But if they do the next movie as multiverse, then yes, I agree with you. Who would be the perfect voice for Amy Rose in Sonic 4? I don't even know who Amy Rose is. I'm 43. I had a Sega Genesis. That's my Sonic. I played a lot of Sonic 1 and 2, and then a little bit of Sonic and Knuckles. That's my history with Sonic. And then Sonic Forces or something like that. One was the free game on PlayStation, so we have that one. So that's the one my son plays. I played that one. Thoughts on episodes 3 through 10 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man? I haven't watched them. I just haven't had time. I'm interested. My kids liked them enough, but them dropping 3 episodes or whatever, the way they did it, I couldn't do that week to week. I was out of town. My wife and I were out of town, and my wife was out of town, so we just didn't get to catch up on them. I want you to start a reaction channel and react to popular 80s movies. I don't actually have any interest in reactions. I do trailer reactions. I don't get any fulfillment out of doing a reaction. I want to talk about the trailer, and a reaction is the packaging that people click on the most. So I'm doing that for other people, but like I don't sit there and like I don't want to. If I'm watching a movie I've seen before, I'm not like, oh my goodness, what did Jason do? Like I'm not gonna do anything like that. I mean, the Terminator. I'm not gonna have an interesting reaction. So it would not be a good channel, and I wouldn't enjoy doing it. Like it would not be for me. All right, yeah. So I saw this one there's a super chat coming up on this one, but I already answered that one. This is a question I don't have to do any research for. What do you think is the saddest 2000s movie ending? The Mist. Period. End of story. Right there. Is it worth doing YouTube as a job? Well, it's not really a job. I work for myself, so I'm self-employed. So it's not a job in the traditional sense. I mean, I work for myself. I wake up whenever I want. I do whatever I want, and what I want choose to do is watch movies. So I could sit here and sometimes there's things that irritate me, there's frustrations, there's stresses, all of those different things that come with anything. There's times it takes a toll. There's times I'm exhausted, I have to travel at times, and it takes a toll. But I watch movies for a living, and I work for myself doing it. I choose what movies I watch and what I cover. like that's as like if you think that sounds like a dream job, it is pretty much it's very cool to get to watch movies for a living. It's a job that people find interesting because every kid wants to be a YouTuber. There's all kinds of perks. Like next weekend, it looks like I'm very likely going to be interviewing Jack Quaid. And then I don't think I'm going to be able to go, but I got a free ticket to NASCAR here because Jack Quaid's in town to like MC NASCAR in town for his new movie Novocaine. And so they offered me a free VIP ticket to Novocaine or to NASCAR because I'm going to interview him for Novocaine. Like just weird little like fun perks, and people like are excited to ask me questions. There's so many things that are just wonderful about doing YouTube. Like if I didn't want to do it, I would do something else because I'm sure by now I could get a job that would pay more consistently, at least consistently. YouTube has ups and downs and things like that. But why would I ever trade the freedom that comes with what I'm with YouTube for any of that? Like things would have to get much worse for me to even consider that. How many movies do you watch per day? The last several years I've watched about 400 to 500 movies in the year, so it averages about 1.5. Now, keep in mind, like if you go to a film festival, or I go to a film festival and I'll watch 3 to 5 movies per day. And so that like starts to elevate the numbers, and it averages out, but also doesn't include television. So make of that what you will. Did you know Brandon Routh and Courtney got divorced because of the fires? I didn't know that, but also I don't. That's not. I mean, that's none of our business. But also, this is not how marriage works. This is like, you don't have a great happy marriage and then get divorced 1 month after a tragedy happens and the fire's the cause. If everything was great, you'd be okay. If things are rocky and the fires happen, you kind of go, maybe this is we're already restarting. Maybe this is the moment. But that if you, a happy or even an okay marriage is not ended because of one thing 1 month later. There's gigantic history of, I mean, they've been together for 20 years. You think everything was great and then the fires ended all of that? No, that's not what happened. That's not how things work. Did you know there were talks of a 24 movie? Yeah, there have been talks of a 24 movie kind of forever. I don't know if anything will come of it, but they're always talking about it. I don't think it works because the whole concept 24 hours in a day, 24 episode seasons, real time. That's the gimmick. That's what's cool about it. Does Chloe have a favorite anime? My Hero Academia. In his Brave New World review, Cody Leach seemed a bit more optimistic that this might be the closing window of the Chapek era and we're wanting Iger 2.0. Agree or disagree? I think that, so what he's referring to is that the turnaround on movies and TV shows, like 2 or 3 years. So you say, we're going to make a movie, let's greenlight it. Then you have to hire producers and writers and write it. Then you have to do pre-production, production, edit, post-production, release the movie. So it's like a 2 3 year turnaround on a movie. So the Chapek era started in the year 2000 with Bob Chapek taking over. And this was the era of Disney Plus, streaming, cranking stuff out, COVID, all this stuff happening. The things were just didn't seem like very broken at Disney. And then 2 3 years ago, he was out. Bob Iger was brought back in. But you still have 3 years of stuff to get out of the system as soon as you make that change. So Cody's saying Brave New World might be the end of that, getting that garbage out of the system. So we should be hopeful. Now Iger's back, the Iger way of doing things better. I think there's some truth to that, of that the poor leadership that led to certain several years of bad decisions is past. But the flip side to that, you have to also think the first several years of, it's tough to know exactly what, like the first several years of MCU projects post Endgame were Iger films released while Chapek was in charge. The same way that right now Iger's been in charge for a while, but they're Chapek films. Same thing was true the reverse when Phase 4 was coming out. So there were broken decisions being made all along the way. It's not just Chapek. It was too many things, so heading in wrong directions, lack of vision, that all that stuff at the same time. And will they sort through it? I don't know. Like, they openly stated they acknowledge issues, they're changing their models and everything like that. They've said all of that. Will it happen? I don't know. Have they just reached the point in time where it's too big and it's just going to implode in on itself? I don't know. We'll see. How far in advance do you shoot before posting? Do you record and then post in the same day? It kind of all depends on the video, depends on the week, depends on the concept of the videos. Um, like the videos this past week, I shot them in the morning, edited in the afternoon, and posted in the afternoon, the same day. But like what I did on some of those is I edited them the night before, pre-edited them. So I can put all the posters and I can find the B-roll and I can look up the clips beforehand, edit those, drop them into my template, and then I shoot the video. So all I have to do is cut up the segments, talk about each movie, drop it in there, cut the empty space, and then we're good to go. Sometimes I'll shoot, if like I know what I'm doing and it's not like urgent stuff, I can shoot 2 3 videos on a Monday and then release them throughout the week. There's no one answer. I do all of it. I intentionally. I don't like to get stuck into any one routine. And then sometimes I just get, I want some time off or whatever. I want to get ahead. I want to like, there's any number of reasons. I do kinds of, I do it all the different ways. And some of them are just, you do these, a ranking of 35 movies, 31 on 31. Well, that's really tough, even if you do all your pre-editing in the world. Chopping through 31 different movies and putting everything in place, just the multiplier of 31 adds up really fast. So all of a sudden you have a video like that, I have to shoot it several days early just to possibly get it edited. Or some of these ones where incorporating all these clips of interviews with directors and writers and things like that, it just takes a long time to hunt all that down. So it's everyone's a little bit different. Please do not spam questions. Like, this is like, all these questions in a row, the same question. That is how you get yourself put in timeout and things like that. Do not spam questions. If A24 to open their own theme park, what attraction would you like to see there? I don't think I'd have a good answer on this one. I'm not a I don't know A24 well enough to even be able to tackle this one with anything particular interesting of an answer. I don't know what it, like their movies are so creepy and weird that I don't even know what you'd want out of that would be um satisfying. I don't know that's, that is a theme park I don't think I'd want to visit, so I can't tell you what attractions I'd want because it's even thinking about it like makes my skin crawl a little bit. But I really don't have an answer. Okay, we had someone that was told not to spam. They said they'd stop, and I mean they stopped an hour ago, but they're still getting put in trouble. Do not spam questions. Yeah, so I'm like an hour behind on here, but 82% was Friday. Yeah, so this was people were saying there's an 80% drop, 82% drop for Brave New World. That was Friday's number. Friday's number's always going to be a higher percentage because it includes Thursday night screenings. So 10, $20 million pulled out of it. Of course, it's going to be an elevated drop. That's a terrible number. It is. But it's not for the weekend. For the weekend, it's like 67%, which is a very bad number. Do you think they will make another Mummy film with Brendan Fraser? I mean, I thought they were going to announce this after he won the Oscar. That he started like having this revival, and then he clearly started to try and lose some weight and just look better again, and he just like he looked really healthy. And I was kind of waiting for that announcement. In an era of legacy sequels, that those Mummy films are beloved. And you say that we're doing like a legacy sequel, and maybe bring in Arnold Vosloo, do the whole thing, find some way to like bring the whole crew back. That feels like an obvious hit, easy hit right there. And then they didn't do it. And if they didn't do it then, I don't know that they'll do it now. Hey, Sean, I hope you're doing well. Thanks for the super chat. I've talked to Austin Burke about the hit show Severance. Have you seen it yet, or will you drop a review for it? I'd love to hear you speculate on the mystery of it. Unfortunately, I wish I could give you better answers, especially because this is a super chat. I haven't watched a single episode of it. One of the problems right now is that there's so much television out there, so much premium television out there, that it's impossible to keep up with it. Like I was at the Critics' Choice a couple weeks back, and they had the TV awards as part of it, and they're listing off the best drama series, and I hadn't even heard of half of them. And the best comedy, hadn't seen those. Like there's so much out there that you just can't keep up with it, all of it anymore. And movies are my priority, and then the shows associated with the genres and franchises of movies are the priority because that's what I cover. So I just a lot of things that I've kind of missed. I've only heard fantastic things about it. So maybe someday. What is a brighter future, Marvel or DC? I am currently more optimistic for DC. Some of it's as simple as DC made a hard reboot, and they brought in an outside force. Um, they brought in an outside person to reset the whole thing, to give creative oversight to it, launch a new universe with a new set of rules. from someone that has a track record, has credibility. So there's something right there to be excited about, like a fresh new beginning. That you don't have that with Marvel, that they're kind of in the middle of a bad point in time. Yeah. That they're like there's hit things, there's things that work, but they feel like they've lost their way and they haven't been able to quite find it yet, and they're kind of getting desperate, and so we'll bring Robert Downey Jr. back versus DC, which is like they made the hard choice. So then I'm just optimistic to see what they're going to do versus I feel like I'm still looking at the like when you like I was legitimately kind of like bummed out after watching Brave New World. I didn't think it was awful. I gave it a C plus, but my overall score was like this. My number score was like this. It's like right on that mixed line. I don't think it's terrible, but I watched it right sandwiched between Winter Soldier and Civil War, and it's just another one of these perfectly mediocre MCU films. And that's what they feel stuck in, kind of this mediocre era where they only have gimmicks that are working. And there's something about that that's like just missing when the MCU felt special and inspired. And it's just not that right now. Like, doing gimmicks to get people to watch your Avengers movie feels desperate. It doesn't feel inspired. Have you been to Six Flags Over Texas or Six Flags Fiesta Texas? Yeah, because I've been in Austin for 35 years. So, I went to Fiesta Texas before it was Six Flags. It was just its own thing, and then Six Flags bought it. But I've been to Six Flags Over Texas in the Dallas area many more times than I've been to Fiesta Texas, even though Fiesta Texas is half as far away. But yeah, I've been to both. Is Dean Cain the only non-white Superman since he's Asian or Japanese? I don't know, but his name is actually his birth name is Tanaka, Dean Tanaka, because he's Japanese, which I always thought was so fun. And his dad, the Cain in that, is directed the next Karate Kid. I didn't know that until like just a few months back. I saw a little quick interview to it. It was like, yeah, I mean, I grew up on movie sets because my dad was a director and he did Young Guns and he did Next Karate Kid. I was like, wait, Christopher Cain? Wait, how did I not know that? So I thought that was a fun little connection. Thoughts on Dredd? Yeah, I've talked about Dredd a little bit on my channel, but not probably not the easiest movie to find my opinions on it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great action movie with tons of style. I saw the Stallone Dredd movie in the theater when it came out in the mid '90s in Delaware, I believe. I was on my family went on a trip to New England. The one time I went up to New England and we drove up to New York City. The only time I've been to New York City and Boston, and we had a relative that was like in Delaware, so we stayed at his house as kind of command central forever before we drove off to everywhere. And while we were there, we went to go see Judge Dredd, which is not great. And then they came out with one that was pretty awesome about a decade ago. That's the same plot as The Raid, the way the universe played out. Two very different movies that are almost identical. And yeah, it's a great movie. I've done videos on like movies that need a sequel, things like that. I always include Dredd in there, but it's a very simple movie that has a great style and aesthetic and vibe, and it's thrilling and exciting, and you want to spend more time there. So it's great. Do you think we'll see Loki and Morbius again? I don't know about Morbius. I feel like they intentionally used Loki as an end to his journey, but also it's done in a way that you could bring him back. It'd be very easy to have another appearance from him. So I think we'll see Loki again, even if it's just like a little cameo at the end of uh, Secret Wars, of like the guy that's holding it all together. Even if it's that, um, you know, do you want to watch a director's cut of Rocky 5? Sure. I'm totally game for it. I mean, it's obviously the worst Rocky movie, but it's still Rocky, therefore it holds a special place in my heart. when they put out if they put out an extended director's cut, um, I'd be very interested. I mean, I got the, I guess it's right over there. Got the director's cut of Rocky Balboa. I was surprised. I didn't realize it was legitimately a director's cut that's 15 minutes longer. Have you watched any Indian cinema this year, last year, because you stopped with the reviews of them recently? Yeah, not in. It's not a choice. That it's just the way I've just been busy. That's it. And they're longer movies, and I have to get babysitter, and so it's kind of like there's some of that kind of ties into it, but it was not a intentional thing to stop going. What was it, the Ram Sharon had a movie last month. I wanted to go see that one, and a bunch of people messaged me about a couple that came out at the beginning of this month. I want to. I'm really not keeping up well with everything. So I was supposed to go to LA in January, and then it was delayed 2 different times. And I had a trip to a wedding in Chattanooga, and then we did go to LA 2 weeks ago, and then my wife was in LA last weekend. It's all of that just even I've got a film festival coming up in a few weeks, and I asked my wife, like, hey, do you want to go see any of the movies, see if I can get you a ticket for any of them? And she goes, I'm just tired of getting babysitters. I was like, that's fair. Are you open to reviewing more Christian faith-based films? I mean, I suppose. I'm not like I don't really have any, like, if they make sense to review, then I'll review them. Like when the best Christmas pageant ever came across my plate, like it was like that was an easy one to cover. It made sense, but it's kind of, it has to feel like it makes sense. Should have worn that iconic Captain America helmet for the stream. That wouldn't have worked very well. Well, first off, the reality. Let me see if I can even grab this. Now you can see what I'm actually wearing. That I'm wearing my pajama bottoms in this stream. You can see the lights in the background. All right, let me see. Okay. So here's the reality of the helmet. There's socks in it. So I put it, if I just put it on my head without the socks, do this, it's too big. It's like, even with, you pull it down, it's too big. There's just it's too big. So then I'm putting socks in the back. There we go. So I do that, and so the little bit of push in the back means that all the extra space is in the back. So then you kind of do this, and it kind of looks about right, but it doesn't fall quite right on my eyes. So I have to adjust it. And as soon as you do this, and you go, like, that looks pretty good. As soon as I start talking, then it slides up. So even shooting those little segments, those little itty bitty bits that you saw in the at the beginning and the shorts were not easy to film because I was just trying to get the helmet to fall on my head right. What other movies do you think DreamWorks should adapt live action after How to Train Your Dragon? None. Knock it off. Knock it off. Stop it. Stop it. That doesn't make, like, we don't need live action remakes of our animated classics. It doesn't give them more anything. Do you want another Rocky movie to be made? I don't think there's room for another Rocky movie. I think there's room for for Rocky to show up in another movie in that universe. I wanted them to do a Drago movie. Like when they announced that, I was like, cool. Let's run this out. Let's play out this Drago tale. And then Stallone himself was like super negative on it. It got kind of awkward because he's been friends with Dolph for 40 years, and so it got a little bit awkward and uncomfortable because it's that to Dolph is like a big deal to get his own a Drago franchise, but to Stallone it was a bit of a betrayal from the producers. So it's a little bit awkward to see. Once again, with the questions, just stop to think, have I made a video on it? Things like my favorite movie of all time, favorite MCU film. I've got 1,000 videos on all of that stuff. What's the best picture nomination you would recommend the most? Dune Part 2, easily the most accessible, and I would say it's the best. Omar, you've been told not to spam questions, and you are obviously spamming questions still. Like, this was an hour ago. Um, but, yeah. Just not cool. Just don't do it. Do we not have mods? We did. I have some people deputized. They were in here earlier. I guess they couldn't make it. They couldn't stick around. But I had mods in here initially. But yeah, there's some people spamming stuff, unfortunately. I'll just touch on this real quick. I put out a video on my second channel talking about this just a few weeks back. Thoughts on Hollywood subs getting so involved with politics? I mean, everyone has the right to your opinions and sharing them. I think more celebrities need to keep two things in mind. Number one is that you have unearned influence in areas where you are not an expert, where people respect you because you pretend to be characters and you're likable as a movie star, but that doesn't mean that you have expertise in the field of politics, world affairs, things like that. And not that you can't say your opinions, your stances, but you have to respect the fact that you have unearned influence in an area that is really important. You need to respect that. And you can think how many times celebrities have said just plainly ignorant things, just don't know any better. Because the same ways that we all say ignorant things, we all get things wrong all the time. But when you do it to millions of people, that's dangerous. And when you do it with millions of people on important things, that can have really bad consequences. I think they need to respect the fact they're not experts, but they have a lot of influence. And that can be really dangerous. Other one, you have to keep in mind that when you're the star of the movie, you're the face of a $100 million, $200 million, $300 million investment. And you should just respect that. I'm shocked that more studios don't tell actors, hey, you can have your opinions, but don't be crazy. Don't be weird about it. Don't insult huge chunks of the country. Don't be crazy. Don't just be reasonable. I'm shocked that more studios don't have more guidelines for what you should post on the internet. Like if you get a job at any major company, they're going to look at your social media to make sure you're not crazy. And that's just for a normal job where you probably don't represent the company, you just work for the company. And then you have actors and actresses that have millions and millions of followers that will make extraordinarily abrasive or crazy or weird political statements. And you go, you are the face of this gigantic movie. And now that these things are associated, that's just foolish. It's weird. Once again, the issue is not having an opinion and voicing it. It's how you phrase it, the humility you bring to it, how abrasive you are, how combative you are. Those make a big difference. And just generally sometimes how crazy you are. Some of them, you read it and you're like, oh no, this celebrity I like is kind of crazy. Hopes and predictions for Sonic the Hedgehog 4. I don't really have any predictions. They've kind of moved past all of my deep knowledge of the source material. I think they've been doing a great job with the movies, not the TV show. So I just keep doing what you're doing. You don't need to fix something that's not broken. I guess we're moving past Eggman, and maybe that's a good thing. But I've really enjoyed what they've done there for. Love you, Sean. Please tell me you love me back. I love you back. I love all of you that are watching, that you're commenting, all that fun stuff. That you have changed my life and means that I get to do something I love for a living. So I love all of you for that. Do you think House of the Dragon 4 will release only a year after season 3, or will it take 2 years again? Oh, it's messed up. That person spammed a question. messed up. If I'd real see, I don't know if there's like if I they sometimes they catch my attention, I respond, and then I realize they spam it, and all of a sudden I've rewarded a spammer. No, yeah, see, you're spamming me. Not cool. That's it's frustrating. But yeah, they didn't have the strike. They don't have the and theoretically they've said that this is the end point, and so that I like when you do that, you stop having a reason for having like I don't know. I hope so. I think that the stuff where there's these multiple year gaps between shows, if there's not a strike, a lot of that just gets really unreasonable. I've heard of the 3C Films engagement. Yeah, 3C Films, friend of the channel, just a friend in general, got engaged, which is very cool. I I mean I believe I met her in real life on a number of occasions. I believe so. I could be wrong. Um, so yeah, it's cool. Settling down, having all cool stuff. John, I know you're not a fan of Studio Ghibli movies, but you should do a ranking of all the movies to see if there's at least one that you like. I mean, well, first off, thank you for the super chat. Like, if you even just kind of like you play out what you just said, hey, you should watch. I don't know how many movies they have, 20 movies, whatever it is. You should watch 20 movies to see if you like one. That's a pretty big ask. That's a big ask. And the other thing that happens with something like that, here's the thing that makes this so difficult for me. I review the last one, Boy and the Heron, however you're supposed to pronounce it. I said it wrong in my review. Go see a movie that's outside my comfort zone, do my best to give my honest opinion that's gracious, it's acknowledging, it's not my sort of thing, chime in. And the comments make me go, why would I ever do this again? Where people talking down to me, insulting me, telling me how it's the best movie, and that, like it's and you get a bunch of insults. And even if it's like I don't know what the percentage is, but like the percentage of insults on a video like that is much higher than on a normal video. Same with my videos about the Oscars. The number of insults and people talking down to me, and I go, why am I like? Why would I even do this? Like I'm watching something that's outside my comfort zone to expand my taste, touch on something that people have asked me about, and I feel like I'm getting beat up for doing it. I feel like I'm being insulted, corrected for doing it, and you get like it's discouraging, it's frustrating, it's all these different things, and so like that's the sort of stuff that kind of makes me back off from covering them more because when I have covered them, it's not like I feel like I'm having a fulfilling time experimenting with something new and talking about it with people. Instead, it feels like a bunch of people treating me like I'm a moron because I don't like the same thing as them. What's your opinion of the Netflix Terminator show? I have a review of it. You can just look that up. Are there any plans to see any movies this year? Plans, no. Desire, yes. Just keep DMing me once they're coming out. Just keep DMing me. Let them know it's on my radar. I want to. I want to. My wife wants to. It's just getting ahead of it. Why do you think people hate Star Trek 5 so much? I watched it, thought it was pretty decent. It's just not as like it's a goofy concept that didn't work. That you can see why they thought it was a great concept. What if they search for God and they find Satan instead? But it's also it is doesn't really work. It's like it's trying to be thoughtful like the best of Star Trek, but it's not thoughtful. There's not actually a great idea in there. There's things about it that are just a little bit it's quite literally in certain areas a cheaper made film. They weren't able to get ILM to do the VFX, so they don't look as good. So there's just a lot of things like that. See, this is the issue right here. Where's the Disney nerd? We said that's my deputized mod. He's almost always here, and he was here at the beginning, but he couldn't stick around, and then we end up with a spammer that I could not catch in time. So I do apologize for that, but I as best I can, um, I have clicked to ban this guy. I'm just an hour late. Just trying to understand the appeal. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find some questions, and I see what you get. Like, it's frustrating when you realize the chat's been like. This is the other thing. Like, I don't do a ton of live streams over here, and some of it's this crap that if I don't have a moderator, all of a sudden people ruin the stream for everybody, and it's infuriating. Like, the reason we can't do these is because extreme losers that literally the best thing they can do to try and feel significance in life and get some spark of I because I was here, because I did something people noticed, is to be annoying in a chat. Well done. Eventually want to see Chameleon as a villain in a Spider-Man movie. I think that can bring some cool psychological aspects to a movie. Thoughts? Hey, what are you talking about? We saw him in a movie just a couple months ago. He's in Craven. What are you talking about? We already got him. It was amazing. Um yeah, I think that's this happens with a lot of these superhero franchises where there's like the big 3 that they keep going back to. Batman, of course, Joker, and Catwoman, Penguin. So we keep seeing the main ones, and then there's this whole rogues gallery of other characters that you want to see but they haven't done yet. So I think Chameleon, I think, brings in some interesting aspects that they haven't done yet. So I think absolutely. This is it. Where's the Disney nerd when you need him? So true. So true. Sorry. Some of this is also there's questions that aren't being spammed, but they were asked kind of multiple times. So I've already answered them. And the world needs to know Sean's favorite Fortnite skin. So we've got a lot of skins. Ones I go to a lot. I go to my Captain America skin now with my Air Jordans, same as this Air Jordan right here. With Captain America with the Air Jordans. Go Raphael, the Ninja Turtle with the Jordans. I've got Ash from Evil Dead with the chainsaw hand. We got a lot. I could list off lots and lots and lots. Oh, I got Peter B. Parker recently with the Air Jordans. So we kind of try and pick themes. So Liam does a lot of Carnage and Venom. So then I'll do Peter B. Parker, one of my Spider-Man skins. We'll do stuff like that. Got a Daredevil skin. That one, as much as I love Daredevil, that one I'm not. I don't think it. I wish it was maybe a little bit not so red, or was it? It was a darker red. This was an hour. Why is super chats off? Because I'm an hour behind. Like, you're asking this question now. That's why. This is the exact reason why. It took me an hour to get to this one. So the super chats that I'm getting to are from an hour ago. So that's the reason. I'm turning them actually off again. They were on for 20, 30 minutes there. Now they're back off again. What do you think was the best year for horror movies. I don't know. That's one I would have to do research on to because you have to consider a lot of things with that. I mean, I think the last several years have been quite good for horror because it's well rounded. It's not one type of horror. You know, the '80s were slashers, and late '90s was meta, and then torture porn in the zeros, and exorcism films a decade ago. Right now, it feels very well rounded. Have you seen the Narnia movies? Yeah, I've talked about them in like a fantasy ranking, I think, 31 on 31 fantasy ranking, and I've got videos on my second channel about the remake. Does pineapple belong on pizza? Of course it does. Will you be invited to the wedding of 3C Films? I have no idea. I wouldn't. I wouldn't assume that. We are friends. I don't know how. Like, I have no idea what he's planning on doing for his wedding. Um, I wouldn't assume that whatsoever. If he invited me, I would make every effort to go. What inspired you to become a film movie critic? I mean, there's no secret answer there. It's the answer that I've shared my story in full and many times on the channel, but it's literally what I say all the time. I just like to talk about movies. I've always been into movies. I talk about movies too much, so I just went to the internet to share my thoughts, and here we are. Would you share your kids a Nightmare on Elm Street at some point in time if they're interested? I've shown Liam the first three Scream movies. We're watching through those about one a month. So we watched Scream 3 a couple weeks back. Week back. Week back? Week back. I don't know. Some of these ones just don't have much to say. Are you excited for Legend of Zelda? Yeah. But that's as far as I can comment on that one. How do you feel about Spider-Man 4 getting delayed a week later? I don't have any opinions on it at all. It was delayed 1 week, so and it's over a year in advance, so I don't care like at all. Why do you think? What do you think the reasons we haven't gotten a smaller scale Avengers movie like Avengers: Age of Ultron? Well, I think it's funny that we're defining Age of Ultron as a smaller scale Avengers film, but I get what you're saying. I don't have a theory. I think that this is crazy. I think this is almost like brand malpractice that they didn't do something like this. Just like you could have do Thunderbolts at the end of phase 4, and you have a team up movie that the point of it is who are the Avengers? And it's interesting, but they didn't do that. And so they're going straight from the biggest movie of all time to trying to like, let's copy that. It's not, all right, yeah, it's a rebuilding phase. So we're going to do a smaller phase. And then we got another smaller Avengers films. Smaller Avengers film. But like a normal team up with the new team meeting each other. But they didn't do that. So I don't have a theory. I think it's crazy. How much money do you think Minecraft movie will make? I did a video on that at the beginning of January. Will Jordan Peele or Greta take home the Oscar first? I don't. Isn't it possible one of them already has an Oscar for like screenwriting? I could be mistaken. I don't know because you don't know what they're gonna do. I think. I think Jordan is. Jordan needs to break out of a mold. I think Greta is playing her career much wiser. where Jordan is just he's doing the M Night Shyamalan thing. Yeah. See, this is like I wanted like you want to do a quick little live stream, nice and simple. Don't overthink it, and then spammers really dampen the whole thing. Will you make another ranking of the streaming services? Yeah, I mean it is near in the future. Like it's been on the like I haven't I've had it written for a month. I just haven't made the video yet. So that could have been today's video. That was on the table for today. Um, it could be next week. It is written. I've done the research. I've done the notes and everything. I just need to make the video, but it is in the works. Yeah, like I'm at like just uh, lessons learned. Importance of moderators. This is also the thing that sometimes I forget. Like my wife will just casually be watching, and she'll block people doing this, and we lost that. So I got to tell her, hey, I'm doing a live stream. So just sit there, just chime in look in every 5 minutes, see if there's anybody you need to block. Any opinion on the Indiana Jones video game? I never played it. I just no time whatsoever. Like I didn't even buy it. I didn't barely even considered it because I just knew I wasn't going to be able to do anything with it. Someone asked about Amazon buying 007. We talked about that at the beginning of this, very, very early on. You are in your 40s. You look like your mid 30s. Appreciate it. Yes, I'm 43. 43. Do what I can to try and stay looking youthful. Which MCU director would you most like to interview? James Gunn, Russo's Sam Raimi. Um, Russo's seemed the least interesting to me by like a mile. Like I'd love to interview them and wish I'd reached out maybe even about some of their with their new movie coming out next month. But um, I don't, like for old school nostalgia reasons, Raimi. For importance and current impact, James Gunn. But both like Raimi or Gunn would be ones I'd be very interested in interviewing. Yeah, so you gotta reimagine how I do these. Oh, there we go. There we go. Visnerd eventually reemerged. Hopefully saved the day. But this was still an hour ago. Scrolling through, this says there's 1,800 comments. So I'm just like scrolling through comment after comment. uh, can you put a video on horror movies list? I don't know what that means. How do you get celebrities in your channel? I'm not sure what you're referring to. If you're referring to interviewing celebrities, it's um, like they'll do press screenings. They'll come out here. Director will come out here, and they'll contact critics that are on the press list. Things like that. I'll reach out to PR people to try and get access. It's things like that. But like once you have an audience, Some of it's just the grind. Like people that with much smaller channels than me get way more interviews than I do because they're good at the grind and they're good at the hustle and making connections. How much salary is off YouTube? Salary is not how it works at all. Salary is like a base pay. Like you have a job and your job has a salary. You're paid this. It's not how YouTube works at all. It's all based off of how you monetize your channel, all the different revenue streams you have. It's based off the number of ads that run, super chats that I get, live streams. It's all this different stuff. It's much more involved. I mean, do I? You still have the same opinion on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2? I don't know which opinion you're referring to. My opinions on everything constantly evolve, and I've shared them as they've changed. So I shared my updated thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 when Guardians Galaxy Volume 3 came out. And so I don't know what you're referring to. Like, people will hear one thing, they'll attach meaning to it, and then they're like, what? Do you still hold this opinion? Like, why? Like, you have to tell me what the opinion is for me to comment. What should Dexter Resurrection do to fix the previous bad endings? Like the problem with Dexter is part of what you love about it. It's the character, it's the ensemble cast, the supporting cast, and it's Miami, and it's this police procedural. So as soon as you go and you put the show, you do the ending that they did for the original show, which kind of like is supposed to put an end to everything he was doing there. How do you continue and capture the vibe when you can't have the same supporting cast and you can't be in Miami and you can't be a police procedural? So I have no idea what Resurrection is going to be or how it's going to work, what the vibe's going to be. But that makes me nervous because it's you got the character and the actor and like you get that, but you don't have all the other stuff that was so important to what made people love Dexter originally, and that's kind of why the prequel show they just did resonated with a lot of people because it went back to what people liked about the great run of the show. Did you watch Cross season 1? No. Are you watching Reacher season 3? Yes. I watched the 3 episodes. My wife and I watched the 3 episodes last night. They were really good. Can you answer my super chat? Like, did I skip over it? I'm going through these in order, so yeah. So I'm going through these in order, so that the fact that there was a delay is just like I'm literally scrolling through in order, that just going through it, and as I get to the super chats, I'm answering them. So it as of now it has been answered, but it was a long time delayed because there's just a lot in here. Do you watch? Did you watch Invincible yet? No, I've seen the first couple episodes a while back, but I just need to. It's like there's just too many shows out there. So and when they've released them and stuff like that, it's been the wrong timing, and so I just haven't seen them. I haven't watched it yet. There's no reason, anything like that. This doesn't have to do with movies. What are the ways you've dealt with complacency and sobriety? I don't feel that's not something that I've like thought about in terms of sobriety. I think it's been so long that it feels like a different version of like it's just not an option. It's not something on the table that I would drink. So there's not a temptation there. Like I'm not. It's just feels like this whole other thing. Like it takes a while to work past temptation. How do you fight the urges? That this long process and initially, and then there's a point in time you realize you're not even thinking about it anymore. And that's kind of where I've been for a long time. I have thoughts at times of maybe it's that version of that complacency of just the thought of I'm not afraid of it anymore, and maybe I should be. It's more of along those lines than maybe the language I'd use, but I don't have any strategies or anything because I just some of it you just feel like why would I put everything I have on the line at this point in time for a drink where I know where that path leads? And there's something about streaks in life, and you have a multi-year long streak, and I don't want to mess that up. Do you think they should start giving notice? The audiences notice whenever they start dropping movie trailers. I mean, they do that pretty regularly. I mean, I feel like I know pretty well when trailers are going to come out. They don't always do that, but a lot of them do. How can you remember a lot of films when you rank 130 of them at the end of the year? Well, I mean, you got to keep in mind, it's not just that I saw them and moved on. I saw them as part of my work. So almost every single one of those movies, I saw it and then covered it in some fashion. So watching is a passive experience. Writing notes is an active experience. Shooting a video is an active experience. Downloading a trailer is an active experience. So with a high percentage of the movies, I saw it, I made a full review where I wrote some notes, shot it, edited, and then I talked about it again with my end of the year ranking or my summer ranking. So a high percentage of them, or a film festival, it's covering a lot of them at once, but then you do that. But yeah, I mean, it can be tough. And particularly, like, why is this one number 68 and that one's number 67? There's not a reason. There's like, there's an arbitrary nature to some of it. But like, I keep running notes for the ranking all year long. So like right now I have a ranking that has all the January and February movies as individual months, and then I have the one right above that that's the full year, and I tweak it and update it every once in a while. Of course, when I add new movies, and then if I rewatch it or just think about it a little bit. And then I'll, even in my notes, I'm trying to, even one of these reasons I'm trying to do more letterboxed this year is because I'm creating the thing that's my notes that I can look at the end of the year to update that ranking. But it's all those kind of things. It's not just passively watching. I have some way in which I interacted with it after I watched it, in notes and in video and auditorily discussing it. There's something I have that I can go back to. So there's something outside of the world of Sean Chandler talks about you've been doing and it excites you, like reading a book, discovering a cool board game with your kids. Um, I don't have like anything specifically super interesting right now. Like we're trying to do more like family fun nights, and so we play a lot of Clue at the house, playing some Sorry so that Karis can get involved. She can't really do Clue, but she can do Sorry, and so do board games like that. Like I found my paintball gun that I've had for 25 years and got that fixed up. So I'm gonna find ways to take the sun out, shoot the paintball gun, stuff like that. So there's a few things, but I've been pretty busy. But yeah, The Mist is sad. I disagree with you. Uh, you disagree that the ending of The Mist is sad? I don't know what you're disagreeing with, because I don't think that that's controversial to say that the End of the Mist is sad. Do you think Andor season 2 will be more watched than season 1 after the critical acclaim? Yeah, I do. I think I would guess so, because it's not the kind of show that would get so like Obi-Wan is always going to have like that upfront demand because there's familiarity. It's a very popular character played by a very popular actor. Like that's one of those ones when they said they're going to do TV shows and spin-offs, a bunch of people like, Ewan is now the right age that you could do something. So that one was always going to have upfront demand. If you do a second season, you could have diminishing returns as some people maybe were disappointed. But Andor is not Kenobi. Like Kenobi is, top 5, top 3 most recognizable names, characters of the franchise. Andor is not. And so it didn't have the cameos, it didn't have lightsabers, it didn't have the flash, the key jangling, the stuff that makes it a real obvious Star Wars thing. But it's great. And that's the sort of show that can take its time to find its audience. And I think it's done that. I hope it's done that. What's your favorite John Hughes movie? Does Home Alone count? Because he wrote it? Let's go Home Alone since he wrote it. There was what, planes, trains, and automobiles. Oh, this is much easier to go through all this with now that people have been banned. Moderators are a good thing. Are you watching 24? Yeah, that's what I've had in the background when I'm editing. So like during the day, um, like it could be a time where I could throw something on that I'm going to cover, and so but I'd be like watching it while also doing something. So that's not a great viewing for review purposes, obviously. Sometimes I'll do that with things I've seen many times, but so that's the show I've had in the background and while editing. Alrighty. Pair character lifting some weights saying keep it up. Pair character lifting some weights saying keep it up. I'm sure this is a reference to something that my brain should understand. Unfortunately, I have no idea what you're talking about. I do not know what this is a reference to or anything like that at this particular moment, unfortunately. Oh, super chat should be turned off. Okay. All right, gotta probably start winding down. I got two different birthdays this afternoon to get to. Do you think the 2020s is the worst decade of movies? COVID, strikes, weird movies, Hollywood making poor choices with budgets and ideas. It's a pretty bad decade for blockbusters in a lot of regards, but there's other ones in there that are they're still really good. I think it's I think a lot of times people can point to the thing that disappoints them, and they miss all the stuff over here that's still really good. And I you know I see so much in film that's still great. And if you see 140 movies, you're gonna see a bunch of movies. You go, that's really good. But I think we're in an era with a lot of mediocre blockbusters and gimmicky blockbusters, and they're not. It's not as exciting when it's a lot of sequels. Like I liked Inside Out 2. I thought it was really well done. It was really great. But it's not fresh and exciting the same way the original one was. It's a great sequel, but it's not like, wow, they found a way to visualize our emotions. And that's kind of what I think makes it feel less exciting. That the stuff that gets the money and the advertising just feels like big corporate product type stuff. Do you think it's possible we get Top Gun 3 next year? No, there's a 0% chance we're getting Top Gun 3 next year. There's a only slightly higher chance than that we're getting a Top Gun 3 in 2027. Will we get a Top Gun 3 in the next 5 years? Probably. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah. So people ask for the super chats. I turned them off because I'm an hour behind. Like this comment where I'm seeing why can't I super chat? It's because it's from like I'm an hour behind and I'm 2 hours into this and I need to end. So I just like I looked at it and I went, I've got 7 super chats I haven't answered and I don't want to just answer super chats. So I turned them off, but I'm still like backlogged on them. I turned them off for like 30 minutes. I turned it back on, but it's all that. Are you doing a collaboration with Cody Leach? What do you want me to talk about with him? He'll be at my house in 2 weeks for South by Southwest. He'll literally be here he'll be like in this room. He'll probably shoot some videos in this room in 2 weeks. So what do you want us to talk about? Um, Almost did one, but it just didn't work out. Well, it could have worked out. I just everything else didn't work out, so I didn't make it happen. But what even is Six Flags? An amusement park. So like roller coasters. So it's just a Six Flags over Texas because there actually were Six Flags over Texas. If I sat here and thought about it, I could tell you what they are. But of course, Mexico, Texas the state, Texas the nation, United States, and a couple other ones. Um, but there's Six Flags over Texas. So it's just an amusement park. Yeah, and then it became a brand, and so there's multiple Six Flags, not just in Texas. I think there are some outside of Texas. With the Backrooms movie in production, What are your thoughts on YouTubers being given more theatrical opportunities? Shazam, Cloverfield Lane, talk to me. Well, I think what you're seeing is the a new on ramp to Hollywood emerging. That we're in an era where technology allows anyone to be a creator. Like when I was growing up, to we had a camcorder and the quality was terrible, and if you wanted to like edit it, it was like you'd have to have two VCRs and you're pushing stop and start, pause, just like super janky. And the idea of knowing someone that could actually like edit video properly was cool. Like, oh, you have a setup where you can actually edit video, and then like I spent years trying to find a way to put video on my computer so I could edit it. Like for years that was like a curiosity, and like like found some very janky ways to do it with this adapter and through this other thing, and it was okay. And now, like I grab my phone and I go doot doot doot, and I transfer 4K footage from my phone that has a light built into it, so I can even have a light on the person's face and everything to my computer in seconds, and I'm editing it. And the technology like emerged to the point that everyone has editing software, everyone has a 4K camera, and now you have a place to distribute it for free, YouTube. And if you're great, people can discover you. That's the way I think about it. It's just a new on ramp. So there's always talented people, and the idea of DIY, do it yourself filmmakers going on YouTube and putting content out there, like, here's my stuff. Of course, there's going to be more and more people getting discovered that way, because that's the world that more and more people have grown up in. What Cobra Kai spinoffs do you want to see? I don't really know. I'm totally open to it in a certain sense. And I think a spin-off probably even like I don't know what I'd be as excited about as I am about like what Cobra Kai did, because it's that mentorship relationship, it's the inversion of the original formula, and it's the ties back that I love. But it's not that you couldn't spin something off. So like I don't know what that would be that I would be excited about that would capture that. Like, what about a young Mr. Miyagi? Like, okay, cool. But what's that story that feels like it actually fits in canon? Like, I don't want to see 1940s Mr. Miyagi fighting in tournaments. Like, that it just kind of, it feels like just so fan fiction-y to me to do that. And inherently, he's not supposed to have this super duper interesting time in the 1960s and 70s. Like, he's alone. So, I don't know what that would be that I'd be excited about, or which character from the current run you could, like, what are they doing in college? What feels real and honest? What's your favorite Cobra Kai episode? I don't know. That's tough. Like episode 5 of season 1 with the cafeteria fight, that's pretty great. And then a few episodes after that with the date night and Johnny goes and pleads, that like really great payoff. The All Valley tournaments are all pretty great. So those are ones that immediately kind of come to mind. He wears his There we go. He wears his Captain America helmet when he sleeps. That would be very sweaty. I put this helmet on, and it does not breathe. I just sweat, and it just stays right there on your skin. It's pretty gross. Do we need a Captain America 5? Need? No. Could there be something interesting there? Maybe. Just bring in much, 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 much better writer directors. Would you ever go on the Escape podcast? Yeah, if they asked me. The magician guy in there. I met him at MegaCon a year ago. Like literally, I met him right at a year ago at MegaCon, and because he's friends with Filmstock and them, and so he actually walked up to me after we did our Stranger Things panel. He was talking to me. I didn't actually know who he was, and I wasn't sure if like he knew who I was or if he was just like I wasn't really sure. So I was talking with him, and I look him up, and he's like this huge deal. Like, oh wow, and I like talking. He's I actually do some magic. I was like, cool. I'm what's this guy about to do? He's this crazy magic trick. I was like, that was awesome. Um, so yeah, if they invited me on, I'd love to have them. If I ever kick off this Sean Chandler Talks too, I have a list of people that I want to talk to and about movies that I'd have on, and I've got him listed on there. I've got them listed on there. So yeah, absolutely. Have you ever watched Human Centipede? No. Will I ever? No. Have you ever met Chris Pratt? No. I haven't really met very many like big movie stars. Are you excited for Epic Universe, the Universal part? Sure. To have some new stuff there. I've been to Universal so many times that now it's lost its appeal. I went there a couple weeks ago and I was like, I think I've been here too many times because this isn't interesting anymore. I've done it too much. What's your opinion on War of Rohirrim? I never saw it. All right. You got your super chat through. Took a while, but I opened them back up. I'm generally sad about Amazon having full control of the Bond franchise now, mostly because I get trauma of what Disney did with several other IPs, but I do like to think they're going to be more news sooner than later. Yeah, I mean, I think that like if the good side to a corporation having control is you will get more stuff. That's the thing you can be sure of. They paid money for it, and the reason they're like paying off the Braccolis to get them out of here so they stop having their creative control is so that they can move forward. Like when you have two sides butting heads, like we own it, but we also own it, and we're butting heads over it. You say, all right, we're the ones with money. Here's money to stop working. We're going to pay you off to not work because your working is what's stopping us from getting something made. But so you'll get more stuff and maybe it'll be great. Like it's not like there's always the chance that they'll do it right. But the fact that it took so long to have no updates and that the end result was Amazon buys off the people that have been the creative shepherds, that doesn't feel like the most encouraging update. That feels like, yeah, I don't know. There's good reason to be concerned about that. Do you edit your own videos, Sean? So yes. Well, on my second channel, Sean Chandler Plus, most of those are edited by someone else. Where I send him my live streams, and sometimes he'll watch them and send him things. Um, and he does the edits those ones, and I'll send him notes. Not this last month because he actually had a baby, so he took the month off. So the last month, February, has been me editing those ones, but he should be back in starting next week. He'll be editing again now that he's had a month off. But on the main channel, it's almost all me. Like other than ones where they're like take a clip that was supposed to be for the second channel and drop it over on the other channel, it's me doing it. See, this is nice that when the sheriff's in town, Omar does his crap, and he's gone instantly. What Armin is, I believe you don't get full control on something as big as the Bond franchise, and then wait for a lot of news to come out about it. Right. I mean that's the thing. Um, that the corporations they view it as an asset. They're investing in their brand by buying Bond or Disney buying Star Wars and things like that. So if they buy a big IP, it's because they want to start making money out of it sooner than later. And so them getting complete creative control was, all right, we're going to keep butting heads. We're not going to see eye to eye. We're also not looking to sell it. Look, we want to be in the business of Bond. What's your price? What do we have to pay you to let go so that they can start cranking stuff out? We leaving soon?
Yeah.
How long?
Like very soon.
Well, if you give me more heads up, it's helpful. If you say we got to leave soon when we're this close, and did you want to answer the question?
No. What's the question?
What do you think about The Rock being cast in Scorsese's next drama?
I'm right here now.
Oh, all right. I'll ask you a different one.
What?
What character from Cobra Kai do you want to get a spinoff?
Spin-off?
Their own show, like Tori's adventures as an influencer.
No.
Torido, Robbie Torido, Tori Kai.
No.
No, you don't have an idea you want for a spinoff?
No, I think like, if they actually did do a spin-off, it wouldn't be very good.
Yeah, so she doesn't think a spinoff would be very good. All right, thank you. If I'm going to finish, I got to rush through these. Yeah, there we go. Power shake. See, I raised my kids on Predator, so we power shake instead of handshake. Yeah, I've got 3 left. I closed them out pretty well. Hope you're having what do I think about this? We talked about this earlier. Basically, what I said was I think that this could be The Rock's John Travolta moment, Pulp Fiction moment, where he finally gets put in something new by a prestige director that makes everyone see him in a new light. So if I trust Scorsese, so if Scorsese trusts him, then I think we should be optimistic and lock in on the Scorsese wants to work with in part. Do you plan on watching every Godzilla movie and doing a ranking video of them at some point? I really doubt it. Because with a franchise like that is now 70 plus years old, the people that's their thing and they're really into it, they watch the movie from 54 and 63 and see all the nuance and the details, and they love the different eras and have specificity of opinion that I wouldn't have. That I'm not drawn to doing that. Like, watching the original one is interesting to me, but watching all these sequels in the 60s and 70s is not interesting to me. Like, I enjoyed watching Shin Godzilla for the novelty of it, but I wasn't super into it. Like, I'm just not broadly into to Godzilla at that level. I need something that's a bit more accessible to me. And that's what I loved about Godzilla -1, that it was very Japanese. It's not just doesn't feel like a Hollywood movie, but it still felt very universally acceptable. That it was done so well, and I wouldn't feel that way about most of them. So yeah, I just don't. I can't imagine ever doing it for that reason. Do you read comics? Like, I'm not a huge comic reader, but like right over there, that doesn't help you at all. I guess I can rotate that shelf right there where that blue light is on top of. There's 2 rows of graphic novels. So like I have Secret Invasion and Secret Wars and Daredevil Born Again. That like whenever they announce they're going to adapt one of these ones, I buy the graphic novel to try and do the deep dive into it and everything. So I actually need to read Daredevil Born Again. In the next couple weeks. But all right, I'm here. I'm alive. I'm trying. So, it's unfortunately we lost Disney Nerd for a little bit, and the spammers took over for a bit. But he did show up. The sheriff did show up and save the day eventually. Thank you very much for that. We'll probably start to close out on that note. Have you watched The Monkey? I haven't. I am interested. I just haven't been able to see it. This is last. I almost missed a $10 one. But, yeah, I want to watch The Monkey. I've just been very busy. Do you have a favorite NFL team? The Broncos. Both of my parents are from Denver, so I have to say that. When was the first time you watched Terminator 2? I believe it was summer 92. We were at a family reunion, and we were looking for a movie to watch, and my mom's cousin, Ronnie, convinced my mother to watch it. And I specifically being like, oh, yeah, you got it. It's awesome. Like, yeah, it's rated R, but Yeah, I mean, like, there's not that much language. It's not that graphic. It's actually kind of funny where the Terminator, like, can't shoot people, so he'll, like, shoot people in the knees and go, he'll live. It's funny. Those are my first memories of watching it. We watched it in the basement. For me, watching a movie in a basement is something I remember because there aren't basements in Texas because there's rock under the ground, so nobody has a basement. Final question. We'll close out on this one. Thank you for the super chat. Hi, Sean. I've been watching you for so long. It's nice to see your success over the years. I remember donating in your 90,000K subs special, you reacting to videos on your phone. You're the best. Hey, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. It's been an adventure. Like, if you watch the reactions from the first year on my channel, I literally would watch them on my phone because I didn't have a good setup yet. I hadn't figured out how to do things right. And there's one where I was like shooting on my phone, like holding two different phones, like so many wacky different things. It's been a wild little adventure, and it's amazing that we've made it this far. But thank you guys all for watching, tuning. Oh, actually, there's one more. It doesn't look like there's a question attached to it, but well, it says how far behind is he on super chats? Well, as of this moment, looks like I was 41 minutes behind because that comment's from 41 minutes ago. There's one more that just had an emoji to it, but it didn't have a question. Oh, no. Now I'm seeing some ones that... This is interesting. This is not in my interface. Huh. Hippo character's heads pop over the water surrounded by his hippo squad. I don't know what that means. But thank you for the super chat. This is weird. I'm seeing super chats that are not... I don't know what's happening. I don't know if these are being listed as super chats that they're not super chats, because there's a super chat, but it's listed here, but the comments aren't questions. So I think there's a glitch going on in my interface. Very weird. All right, there was one more from a Charlie Moses. Thank you so much for the super chat. Doesn't appear to be, it was just an emoji attached to it. Do you watch The Simpsons? Actually, my family's gotten very into watching The Simpsons recently. That, like, we watch it as a family as a whole, which has been fun. All right, we'll close out on that note. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for supporting the channel, the super chats, everything. If you like live streams, consider joining on Patreon at any level. I'll answer at least one of your questions every single week. There are multiple live streams, Q&As, all this fun stuff. Join at any level and you get your questions answered. And keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye. I got to go to two different... I got a niece's birthday now, and then I got a nephew's birthday at 5,